I got sent a package.
So you wanna die young? Another legendary face, another honorary star. The world will celebrate 4 days. So you wanna die young?
Ultrawides, ultrawides, ultrawides. There are so many monitors to choose from, all with roughly similar specs but very broadly ranged price tags. From the cheapest 1080p 27-inch ultrawides all the way up to these 35-inch 1440p 120Hz monstrosities that will set you back the black market value of both your stomach and spleen combined. Seeing all of these options is a little overwhelming. What if you wanted one that was like Mario from Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games? You know, a good all-rounder, one with a high refresh rate so you can enjoy games on it, new technologies such as HDR so you can take advantage of those new features in films and games, yet one that still puts up an admirable fight when it comes to colour reproduction for all of your professional needs such as photo editing, graphic design or video production work, all while being affordable for someone like, say, a student at university or college. Greetings everyone, my name is Dom and today we're taking a look at the BenQ EX3501R. Boy, it feels good to say that again. Even after 8 months of inactivity, BenQ were nice enough to give me this monitor for review, so props to them. However, I won't let that take my experience and feelings towards this monitor in any way, shape or form. So, let's get into it. Straight out the box, this monitor looks stunning. The materials they've used feel high quality and suitable for the monitor's audience, and you can really appreciate the minimalist effect they're going for. There are no glossy plastics, no fingerprint magnet surfaces. We finally have a monitor that doesn't have weird alien lines everywhere or tons of RGB lighting. Just a bog standard, smart looking monitor that would belong comfortably in an office space and in your home. In terms of the monitor's functionalities, there's no joystick for menu navigation, just awkward buttons hidden away underneath. They don't feel cheap though. On the front of the monitor we have this weird tab that protrudes from the bottom of the bezel. This is actually an ambient light sensor which will adjust the screen's brightness to match the light in the room, saving you the trouble of eye strain. An awesome feature for those who will be clocking in loads of hours working with this monitor, doing essays or spreadsheets or video editing or movie marathons or, I suppose, more likely gaming. Behind that tab we have the monitor's I/O, which is seriously impressive for the price point. You get 2 HDMI 2.0 slots, 2 USB 3.0 ports, a USB 3.1 Type-C port, which you can use to drive this display by the way, an audio jack, and finally a DisplayPort 1.4 connection, which does mean this monitor has plenty of bandwidth to drive that resolution. In fact, it kinda makes me wonder why on earth they didn't up the refresh rate to 120Hz. The DisplayPort 1.4 standard easily supports it, and I feel like this would have obliterated the market if it did. Also, props to BenQ for the packaging of their monitors. Didn't have to mess about with a stand or anything, just pick it up and plug it in. Lovely. Speaking of the stand, I can happily give it praise where it's due. Its footprint on your desk is rather minimal, especially in terms of its depth, so you won't need such a huge desk to put this on, unlike a lot of other ultrawides. Unfortunately, that's where the good kinda ends. Although you can raise the height of this monitor, you unfortunately can't swivel or rotate it. You get some minor tilt adjustment, but nothing amazing. VESA mounting, although possible, doesn't come as standard in the box. I believe you have to purchase an adapter separately in order to mount this to a VESA compatible arm. Most monitors come with this feature as standard, so it's pretty disappointing to not have it here. It's not really a massive deal breaker for most people when you consider the price, and you should seriously consider the price. You can pick this monitor up today for under £600, which is insane when you look at the specs of this thing. Of course, you have that lovely sweeping 3440x1440 35-inch 21:9 panel with a striking 1800R curve, which may seem a little bit excessive, but feels perfectly natural as you're using this monitor as a monitor and not a TV. Now on 16:9 monitors, I don't really see much point in a curve, but it makes so much difference to content consumption and colour uniformity on an ultra-wide aspect ratio. It's just a must-have at this point. And yes, even if you create said content to consume. Along with a 3440x1440 resolution, we also get a strong 100Hz refresh rate powered by VA technology. Unfortunately, it's not QLED or quantum dot, but it is a native 10-bit panel, so performance-wise it doesn't actually hold up too bad. I found that ghosting is no way near as apparent on this monitor as it is on some other VA ultrawides with its 4 millisecond response time, and there doesn't seem to be any backlight bleed, so films are easily enjoyable on this display. Furthermore, colour uniformity is excellent, and although I don't have the equipment on hand to get all the proper scientific results about this monitor's colour performance, I can just state what others have found out. Its black level performance is exceptional, as is to be expected with a VA panel. Trusted Reviews claims this monitor hits a 0.17 nits black level, a contrast ratio of 2082:1, 354 nits of brightness level, and a reasonable delta E of 2.38. The colour temperature is spot on, hitting 6349 degrees Kelvin, which is very close to the ideal temperature of 6500 degrees Kelvin. The 10-bit panel performed admirably, capturing 99.5% of the sRGB colour gamut, although was only able to obtain 82.3% of the DCI P3 gamut and 75.3% of the Adobe RGB colour gamut. Although those last two results may seem a little disappointing, I can tell you the screen still looks fantastic, and all these figures make this monitor out to be a great candidate for an entry-level professional in the photo editing, video editing, or graphic design scene. For the price, if you were on a budget and wanted to get into that kind of work, and you need the screen real estate, this monitor is not a bad place to start. You could definitely do worse and still end up spending more money. More good news on the way, this monitor supports HDR, which is fantastic at this price range. Unfortunately, it doesn't support HDR at 10 bits, which is a shame, but nevertheless, HDR still looks great on Netflix and games like Battlefield, making a noticeable difference in high contrast scenes. But I wouldn't recommend using the HDR color setting in this monitor's OSD. It's a simulated effect and doesn't quite yield as good results as standard or your own custom modes will. I would wait a little while for Windows HDR support to mature a bit more before incorporating it into desktop use, as well as content consumption use. That said, the HDR support from other offerings like Asus or Acer does tend to be a bit better. I just can't see it being worth the additional cost to get that. Alongside HDR, we've also got FreeSync support with a range of 48 to 100 Hz. It could be bigger, but shouldn't be too much of an issue if you know the settings in games a bit. Speaking of games, this monitor is a wonder to play them on. That extra inch keeps on giving in the sense of immersion in games compared to that of a 34-inch monitor. Things feel snappy and clear, and although I'd have liked a more vibrant display like with Samsung's Quantum Dot or QLED offerings, this is some serious bang for buck. Now I did take a look at overclocking the monitor and seeing if I could take advantage of that DisplayPort 1.4 bandwidth, but unfortunately no dice. Another missed opportunity, but it is to be expected at this price range. This is a £400 PC, and today we're going to be using both together and seeing what the experience is like. The sum of the monitor and PC is roughly £1,000, which is a reasonable budget for someone looking for an ultra-wide gaming setup on the cheap, and we're going to try and simulate the experience of someone on a budget or in education and not a high-end gamer, just to see if it's worth going for this or for a 2560 by 1080 option, which is annoyingly less productive. Inside the PC, we have a GTX 1060, 16GB of RAM, and an i7-3770K currently running at 4.1 GHz. Now, this combination will slaughter 1080p gaming. You'll be able to run anything, and well, but how about a 3440x1440? Well, my experience has actually been pretty positive. Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5 will play perfectly fine, so long as you turn down ray tracing, effects quality, depth of field effects, and anti-aliasing. Games like The Witcher 3 are still perfectly playable, even at ultra settings if you don't mind dips to 30 FPS. But unfortunately, unless you turn the settings to their lowest in games, you probably won't get to utilise that high refresh rate, and you will have to start looking to upgrade the GPU if you want that full functionality. For this reason, I would say that 3440x1440 is still a good resolution for this PC, but if you are a person who does crave, those high FPS titles, then perhaps 2560x1080 options will seem more appealing. Now obviously if you have a super high-end PC then you won't need to worry about this, but it is good to know that for the average person, that 3440x1440 resolution won't be a massive issue. I really do wish BenQ put a bit more of their marketing focus on the monitor's capabilities in games, because it is seriously impressive. These specs at that price is unheard of. To get a similar experience you have to buy a pre-owned or get a shitty Korean monitor off of eBay, and then fork out for the duty fees and risk of it being broken in transit. Comparing this to the Samsung CF791, this monitor actually provides a much nicer experience when it comes to competitive gaming, all because of its low response time, and also seemingly lower input latency. Yes, the Samsung does provide you with much nicer colours and a far better approach to content creation and professional practices, but for nearly £100 more you miss out on HDR, you miss out on USB Type-C, you miss out on DisplayPort 1.4 and a 10-bit display. You don't get that ambient light sensor, you're still stuck with a VA panel, you have more ghosting and higher input latency, and the quality control is far more patchy for Samsung monitors, at least in my experience. This monitor is pixel perfect and really makes you wonder if the extra price tag is worth it. I feel like if you're going to spend more, then you really need to spend more before you start seeing benefits worth the extra dosh. The amount of value you get here is insane, and I feel like if BenQ revised a similar monitor with 120Hz, basic support out the box, a joystick for the OSD, and 10-bit support for HDR, it might just be the ultimate budget ultrawide option. But anyway guys, if you did enjoy this video, then do show your appreciation by tapping that like button. If you want to see my video on what the benefits of 21:9 are and why it's my favourite aspect ratio, please refer yourselves to the video down in the description. I love your face, and I will see you guys in the next one. Ta-ra.